For the first time in league history, welcome to the VOR Sprint IndyCar Series, the first ever round in competition. And tonight, welcome back to Algarve for the Algarve Grand Prix. It's a 4-race schedule where drivers will push themselves to their limit in very short events. 30 minutes on the clock for these races, and each and every lap will mean much more than ever seen prior. Not long events by any means, but drivers have the ability to go all out for each and every lap, and the schedule on your screen are first ever full races on the schedule. Historic open wheel tracks all throughout the world selected, and tonight our first ever. Taking a look at the rules, open setup for tonight's event here in Portimão. 19 laps or 30 minutes, whichever comes first, and no tire changes, only optional tires allowed for drivers tonight. It's overall going to be about pushing to the max for every one of the 19 laps on the table tonight, and drivers, they know it. Qualifying is on the move, and tonight's broadcast brought to you by IFS Personal Financial Planning. We'd like to thank them for coming aboard and sponsoring the entire series as we get moving for the first time tonight with 2 minutes left on the timing sheet. So far, drivers have, for the most part, not taken times. It looks like no times on the board just yet, and as you can see, many drivers, such as Fyodor Dovzhenko, you can see on your screen right now, taking those laps and getting settled in so far. Looking at Julian Altena, who got the victory just a few weeks ago in Road America in the main INDYCAR Series. A fierce battle to the checkered flag at the very end with the likes of Patrick Zilvazzi, and now drivers are coming aboard for their very first times. Robert Sadler going to sit second, and Jarno Kausch is going to be up to the pole position, and it looks like now only to be overtaken by the number 23 as times are still rolling in. Official times show that 5 drivers have a validated lap so far, and still at the top of the board now, Lemmy Mishka over Tien van de Velde and Jarno Kausch with Patrick Zilvazzi, position number 4. 8 drivers have now taken a lap with the number 23 at the head of this field. Some drivers you might not recognize from the main IndyCar Series, and they're coming in for the very first time here in the VOR League, getting a taste of it with a 30-minute sprint. Robert Sadler right now going to be making it through the hills here in Portimão in the number 75, very McLaren-flavored paint scheme. And if you take a look at ride on board, elevation going to be critical to the driver's success tonight, and you can see going through all the gears with the optional tires on. Robert still trying to best that time. Fyodor Dovzhenko just about concluding his qualifying run. Alexander Bani going to move up into 10th. And it looks like Julian so far the only driver not to take a lap so far. We'll see whether or not that changes. It looks like now Julian is on the racing circuit. However, it has not come down to the start-finish line for a verified lap. And it looks like once again, gonna have to wait until the main event. Julian goes down to pit road, and our first ever pole sitter is now coming down pit road, the number 23 at the top of the charts, pole sitter Lemmy Mishka. And so with qualifying concluded, 11 drivers have registered for tonight's event here in Portimão. Let's take a look at your starting grid for tonight's event. It's a brief one, but it's packed with talent. It's time to figure out who's at the front of the field. Some newcomers in this league against some of the all-time series veterans. 19 laps on the table, 30 minutes allotted. Welcome to the Sprint Series for the first time in VOR history. At the front of the field in the night's event, it will be Lemmy Mishka in the number 23 with a 118-mile-an-hour lap overall across this 2.89-mile circuit. Robert is going to be very far back relative. However, he's going to be one of the drivers in the top 10. Robert Sadler, one of the rookies, but above, we have a few others. It's going to be the Jarno Kausch, number 75, in second, Tien van de Velde in third, and Patrick Zilvazzi then in fourth, and Jan Korps in fifth. Number 78 machine right beside Robert Sadler, previously mentioned in sixth, as Fyodor Dovzhenko is then seventh. Eighth is Dave Stedman. Yaroslav Donskoy is going to be in ninth, and Alexander Bani is position number 10. The final driver in the field tonight, 11th place for the number 11 in qualifying. That is Julian Altena, who sits alone outside of the top 10 in this qualifying session. Drivers are already lined up at the starting line. And it's time to learn the track together. For some of these drivers, maybe their first ever chance to take it around Portimão, 2.8 mile circuit with 15 turns, and the weather going to stay constant all throughout. Track temperature of 114 degrees Fahrenheit, ambient temperature of 79. Overall, mild conditions. With the exception of that track temperature, it is burning on the circuit, and it looks like now all of our drivers are just about ready to take the green flag. Engines are revving for the first time tonight, and it is time to get things going. The green flag will fall here in Portimão. We are underway for the first time in the VOR Sprint Series. Multiple drivers going to have major contact back of the field. Take a look. Alexander Boni going to now be on pit road. But in addition, take a look now. You can see a few drivers getting away, but trouble is brewing. Robert Sadler, among others, are going to be down a pit road and quick. Let's take an instant replay here and figure out what caused it, because it looks like the first lap troubles have already begun to settle in for these drivers. Here's Robert Sadler with Julian Altena on the first lap. Some checking up through the opening turns. Robert going to get the outside here. It looks like hanging through the first two corners with no trouble, making that a Lagos, and then you can see Sadler going to cut loose there. Ends up in the wall. Jan Korbs gets away, but Dave Stedman does not. And Stedman also going to be sent down a pit road as a result. That's a quick replay, and it looks like now a few drivers on pit road for the first time tonight. Alexander Boni is going to now get on the way after missing the start of the night's race, and Jarno Kausch is now going to be a race leader. Looking to come across the stripe. Big trouble for Yaroslav Donskoy, and it looks like his race is done as well. Sent into the gravel, and he will now back out of this race. Donskoy now going to be out of the way. We're going through our first corner, and it looks like through Primera, no trouble for Jarno, making it back up again to Lagos. This is where the opening section of trouble was for the drivers, and coming out of turn 3, now going to come to one of two long straightaways. And as Kausch does so, a little bit of pressure from pole sitter Lemmy a bit further back through the Torre Vip and up through Craig Jones for turn number 6, making it up to 7, and then Samsung turn number 8. Jarno going to make it through quickly with the advantage over Lemmy, and then Patrick Silvazzi. Julian Altena from back of the grid up to 4th on the board. Not a half bad start so far as we make our way up into Samsung, coming out of Craig Jones and making it through to Portimão once again. Jan Korbs is going to be the final driver inside of the top 5 now, trying to chase Julian once more. Julian making note of that attrition to the early start, and now it looks like 7 drivers within relative contention for the race lead. And as we make our way now out of the middle section of the circuit through Portimão all the way to the very end here, it's going to be Sagres and then Galp making it back to the main straightaway and the start-finish line. And we'll make it now through Galp and make it to the start-finish line once again. That's going to be lap number 3 in the books. Jarno Kausch going to be your race leader, and he's led all 3 laps so far, taking the lead in the first turn, and he has not looked back so far. 24 minutes left on the clock here, and Jarno leads the way over Lemmy, Zovazzi, and Julian Altena, with Jan Korbs then in 5th. And so now, Jarno having an opportunity to break away and get about a second's worth of a lead. The gap is a solid second long. And it looks like it stayed that way for the better part of this past lap. Lemmy going to remain about a second ahead of Patrick Zovazzi. Keep in mind, optional tires are mandatory for the entirety of this race. Tire swaps will be disallowed for that reason. And so drivers have one set of equipment. They will use it to the very end of this event. Zovazzi now going to be making it all the way down the bend. Once again, you'll see these drivers making it to the middle section of the circuit, from Samsung to Craig Jones in the Portimão corner once more. And then we come down to that last sector, Sagres and Galp, before we do it all over again. Drivers now approaching the final turns. This is where Donskoy went off in the entry through Galp into the final straight. Looks like every driver at the front of the field getting away quite nicely. Jan Korbs now losing a little bit more time to Julian Alton. On the left side of your screen, we'll give you driver telemetry for every driver we focus on all throughout the rest of this race. Keep in mind a few things: the throttle, the brake usage, and the shifting of gears. Drivers are going to be using all 6 gears throughout tonight's event, no matter where they are in the field. And now as they make it through the opening corner once again, through Primera up to Lagos, looks like still 4, 5, 6 using the opening sector, and then Lagos corner brings you down to first before going at it all over again for the first of 2 straightaways on the lap. Now Lemmy going to be in second here. The gap is 0.6 of a second. Patrick Zovazzi also putting up a few tenths of gain, and they'll all be even either way. 0.7 of a second, it looks like, from first to second, second to third, about the same gap. Zovazzi staying right behind, and overall, it looks like he has not run the fastest lap of the day, but rather the second quickest lap so far. Jarno still with the overall fastest time, a 128.429, and relative to his last lap, that was only about 0.02 of a second faster, which shows the number 75 has speed, and more than that, has consistency in this opening portion of the event. 4 laps in so far, Jarno's gotten away, and it looks like gotten away just enough to avoid what could be a heating up battle here for second. Furthermore, look at Julian Alton now and Jan Korbs as they make it through Galp and back to the opening sector of the circuit. Looks like Julian now only has 0.3 of a second to breathe and get through the opening corner again with the advantage through the final sector. Now going to be moving back and forth. Julian trying to protect it for Altena Autosport. And the team that came through so dominantly at the last road race in the Premier INDYCAR Series, Liam O'Sullivan finishing inside the top 5, and Julian, of course, winning that race, trying to show that road course prowess once again. Currently, Julian going to find himself in 4th, and staying just ahead of his rival here in the number 78. We got a 3-car battle now for second, as you can see. Patrick Zovazzi trying to get up in the mix with Lemmy, and it looks like Jarno Kosh being reeled in ever so slightly. So more than that, this will be a battle for the race lead. And so far, Jarno not giving up, Lemmy losing a little bit more time, and Patrick Zovazzi waiting for the both of them. That time by first and second drivers, they ran an identical lap time. Zovazzi quicker than the both of them that time through by a little over 0.8 of a second. Taking a ride on board right now with 3rd place Patrick Zovazzi, trying to make some gains, and critical gains if any. Running through the middle section of the circuit once again. Elevation going to be critical, and coming through the last 2 yet again. These 2 turns, sweeping turns at that. Sagres leading you into Gulf, and then back to the main straightaway all over. Looks like pulling through with that momentum, grabbing the gears, getting up to 6th, and now getting comfortably in the tow. Keep in mind, push-to-pass users are something that looks like these drivers do not have available to them tonight. Currently going to find themselves right now maxing out at a speed of 100 and some miles an hour, 160 it appears. And look at that, Patrick Zovazzi making so much through Primera, now into Lagos, goes down to the inside, and they're going to be toe-to-toe, neck and neck. But Zovazzi has to back off, and now looking for a switchback maneuver into the Torre Vip. You can see Zovazzi's evidently gained, and now looking for the opportunity, he'll cut deep again, and Patrick Zovazzi will not be denied. Side by side now as they're going to make it out of the VIP and try to go down to Samsung corner, neck and neck. Lapper gets out of the way. That's Alexander Bonney. Patrick Zovazzi gets the spot. He is good for second. Not a bad move at all for Patrick Zovazzi, getting up into the second position, and Lemmy Mishk now trying to look for something, but going to get that brake smoke and lock up once again. Bad news now for Lemmy if there's any chance to get back to second. Your pole sitter slowly but surely falling behind. Julian Alton now going to be in 4th with Jan Korbs right behind. Not too far back though, Jan has remained under the wing of the number 11 all throughout this race, trying to breathe down the neck of Julian, and so far it's worked out, staying in tow. Little trouble so far. It looks like Jan remains a contender, perhaps trying to make a spot or 2 up by the time this race ends. 19 minutes remaining out of the 30 minutes we had allotted in total, about a third of the race down. Jarno pulling away now with a 1-second lead again, but Patrick Zovazzi looking for a chance to bring it back as we go through Lagos once more. And Zovazzi driving great there to get that second spot. No question he had to work for it and able to make that switchback maneuver out of Lagos and into the Torre Vip. It shows the expertise Patrick Zovazzi holds in defensive driving and knowing how to counter it. Going for the fake out and no contact. Patrick does it for real, and he does it clean. Now moving up to second with Jarno leading by a whole second ahead. With the number 75 advantageous here, it looks like lap times have remained relatively the same. Jarno still the quickest driver, however 1 second of tire fall off for your top two drivers has become 2 seconds in the opening 7 laps. Keep in mind it is sweltering conditions here all throughout the circuit, and the elevation doesn't quite help. Track temperature of 114 degrees Fahrenheit, and we didn't touch on this before, humidity of 45%. Winds are northbound at a mile an hour, but that doesn't really help these drivers all too much. Admittedly, for the time being, there is no saving grace, and those tires will burn. At the line again, Jarno gonna lead to lap number 8, and still finds himself advantageous. Jan Korb's falling a little bit further off, and it looks like Tien van de Velde now getting into the mix. Tien, pretty quiet so far, but admittedly that time by, running a lap at about the rate of a 4th place driver in terms of time. Quicker than both Jan and Julian. Looks like Van de Velde saving up some of the tire, and now for Team VOR trying to strike on perhaps his teammate and the driver directly ahead of him. Hasn't quite been able to make it work out yet, but now in a line and getting that draft, all about trying to preserve that momentum. And you saw how Zovazzi made that ever crucial pass around Lemmy Mishk to get the second position. Now Van de Velde gonna have to replicate that same process and get around Jan with a little bit more of that aggressive driving to make it into the position, and then try to find an error, force a mistake perhaps, and make it around, as Julian is going to have a much different entry and exit there into the final sector. And how about that for Julian, making it through Portimão, then Sagres right here. It looks like Julian trying to go for a little bit more of that late apex to keep defending upon Jan, and it's worked so far. As you can see, Julian gonna pull a few tenths, and Korb's no opportunity to sort of expect it, loses time again. Team Van de Velde stays right behind, and coming in tow, you'll see them race down the main straightaway. Push to pass now going to be available to drivers, and Van de Velde is going to be on it at a speed of 190 miles an hour, coming in at super speedway type speed, and only to back off and get down to 3rd in the Primera. And all that momentum, not necessarily wasted, but at the same time really can't do much with it. Jarno gonna lose an awful lot of time on that lap, and now the gap has been slashed into 1/4 of a second. Patrick Zovazzi now in position to maybe go take that race lead, and he had made up time immensely so in just one lap. On the way, the number 17 machine has pulled himself up in a second and made it a close battle once again for the top spot. 3/10 the difference so far for the respective drivers you're seeing, and Lemmy gonna be now 2 seconds behind the top dogs who continue to battle. Zovazzi goes wide though, and now trying to look for that same late apex approach into the final corners once again, and it looks like replicating Julian's approach all the more. Into the gallop corner once again, coming out of Sagres. It's that sweeping turn where Patrick should be able to pull the speed up to 190 miles an hour, much as Tien van de Velde did, and Tien still remains in 6th as you ride on board through the gallop one more time. Will he choose to go for the green button? No, he'll go down to pit road, and we got our first pit stops of the day, first pit stop of the season. Patrick Zovazzi gonna go down and in for an undercut strategy, whereas the rest of the field decides to stay right out. Halftime, it looks like we've just made it there. 14 minutes and 40 seconds remain. Down to the inside, Jan Korbs will take net 3rd position and pass Julian quickly into the Primera. Not half bad there for Jan Korbs. Gonna make that pass quickly. Didn't look like there was much effort in it. And so Julian gonna let a pass be given away quite quickly. But of course there's tire strategy, which might come into play, but there's also fuel strategy. And it looks like the necessary pit stop there for Patrick Zovazzi. And he decides to go in rather quickly relative to his competitors. And we'll see what happens here with Patrick as he gets back on the way once more. No tire changes allowed. Keep that in mind. It all comes down to fuel for these drivers, and it looks like Zilvazi going to make the move down and in. It's a 36-second stop and a little bit of time on pit road, so he takes it into the box, and as such, he gets back on his way again. Julian and Jan Korbs going to be battling each other now for third, and Tien van der Velde still in the mix. Three-car bundle, and they're making their way around with 13 minutes and 40 seconds left here. A minute has flown by since Zilvazi went down to pit road, and as such, the battle for the final spot in podium placement, it is fierce, and Julian finds himself smack in the middle, right on board. And take a look at the battle here. Julian now going to get hounded all over by Tien van der Velde. And more than that, Julian's out of the inside once again. Going to be looking right low, hoping for forcing an error out of Jan. Contact almost, and they stay side by side, coming out of the Torre VIP and on their way to the Samsung corner. Sweeping straight away here, able to put the speeds down once again, but Julian not in the advantageous line. Going to lose a spot to his teammate, and it looks like now Tien van der Velde, a little bit of a wiggle, and as they come out of Samsung once again, it looks like Julian and his teammate respectively have given the spot up to Jan Korbs, and he's made a convincing drive out of harm's way. Now going to be net third, and there by a wide margin. Jan Korbs going to make his way through up at the front of the field here, and does so quickly up the third, letting both of the Altona Autosport drivers fall by the wayside. It's going to be Tien van der Velde now in fourth, and Julian Altona in fifth. 4 and 5 spots going to be occupied right now by the Altona Autosport drivers, who have proven to be so good at the tracks that we know well. But tonight is a different challenge for everyone, and I think that's why you don't see drivers like Julian perhaps dominant tonight necessarily. As you can see now, racing through the Primera and on their way once again for another lap. The question more so becomes, what can you do to adapt quickly in this series? It is a 4-race series, and tracks seen all throughout the world internationally. And starting in Portimão, we will move next then to Monza, then Spa-Francorchamps, and ending the series in Silverstone. International circuits, and taking the international talents of this league all together, it's going to be a fun one, all things considered. 30 minutes per race, so not a lot of time for these drivers to put things together. However, so far, they've given us an excellent showing, and those that have survived have been battling each other to wit's end. Pushing to the limit so far. 10 minutes and 58 seconds remaining. Julian stays now in fourth. Tien van der Velde is going to fall a little bit further back, and it looks like now it's Julian's job as they'll come through the final 2 corners once again, making their way once more out of Portimão and into the Galp corner for the final sector. That Julian still remains just a few tenths of a second behind. Has gained once again after losing in that side-by-side battle, and we'll see whether or not the number 11 team has anything up their sleeve here for Jan Korbs, who is now net 9 seconds behind race leader Jarno Kausch. Looks like Jarno has decided to stay out, as has the rest of the field. Interesting decision, as it looks like now Julian's going to back it up, and the both Altona Autosport drivers making it together. We were just going to say that maybe Zilvazi was the outside run strategy. That's not the case. Down to pit road quickly goes the duo, the number 11 of Julian Altona and Tien van der Velde as well. We'll see where they cycle out here, because Patrick Zilvazi, keep in mind, was ahead of the both of them prior to their entry to pit road, and now making it through Galp and onto the main straight once again. Patrick going to be barreling through and should be able to cycle up ahead of the both of them just like that. Now it looks like it's going to be Zilvazi once again getting those positions back, and the undercut strategy puts the number 17 up to 5th. Getting by Altona and Tien van der Velde respectively. We're only looking at 4 drivers now with respect to pit road that will have to come down and in. Jarno Kausch, second place. Lemmy Mischk, Jan Korbs, and Fyodor Dovchenko. Fyodor is still surprisingly driving, although it looks like we saw an incident with a different driver. That was Yaroslav Donskoy. Dovchenko barely avoided it and yet has remained on the circuit. And the GoDaddy number 96, Dovchenko, has survived and at this point has made himself a lock effectively for a top 5 finish. Not a half bad job so far for a driver who admittedly has remained silent throughout this session, yet he has made gains. Started today in 7th, 1 spot up at the time of the last lap's recording. However, now he would be a total of 4 spots up, or 3 officially now. Pit road cycling through might be able to give the number 96 a spot or 2 more come the end of this event. At the line, Dovchenko still going to remain out, as does his contemporaries at the head of the field. Jarno Kosh included has led the majority of this day. Matter of fact, has led the entirety of this day. With the exception of the start of this event, it's been Jarno through and through, and now finding himself advantageous. Looks like there's no chance that he's going to give it away without making a mistake and unforced error. Through the pit road, it looks like another driver going to make their way in. That driver in question looks to be this time by number 23 staying out, Fyodor Dovchenko staying out, and it is going to be Alexander Bonney who decides to go down and in. A lapper at the tail of the field, so the leaders have not yet decided to pull through. Keeping watch right now on strategy. Whenever Jarno goes in, this could set the tone for the final drivers to make their way through. Once again, coming out of Portimão and into the Galp straightaway. It's a bending straight, and that should determine it. At the line here, Kausch going to make the call, and it looks like not going to be taking that hard dive for a right turn in a pit road this time around. Lemmy looks like it's going to be a different choice, so it's going to be Michigan, the 23, down a pit road quickly. Jan Korbs next to make a decision, and the call is to stay out at least 1 more lap. For Dovchenko, maybe going to go there with Jan Korbs, maybe stay out with the rest of those who have not gone in. And the final decision to be made on this lap for Dovchenko is to stay on the circuit. Lemmy Mishk, your pole sitter, goes in, and Jarno Korbs leads, or rather, Koch with Korbs, Dovchenko. Those are the 3 that stay out. Patrick Zovazzi leads all drivers who have gone into pit road so far. And Patrick might be able to make it work. Zovazzi played the different strategy call, went into pit road by a wide margin, the first man in, and he was looking to be the first man out. All of a sudden, he finds himself now perhaps a little bit further behind than he'd like on Lemmy Mishk, because it looks like now Lemmy's going to be a total of some 3.5 seconds ahead. That's not going to be an easy gap to put together. One driver going to be off of the racing circuit, and it looks like that is a lapper. As all drivers keep it together here, it looks like that's going to be Alexander Bonney. Bonney stays wide and stays high, gets out of the trouble of the leading drivers, and so no issue for the folks in the field here. There should be no problems. Jarno going to come across the stripe one more time here, and it looks like the decision is in. Stay out on the track for lap number 16. Of 19 here. So it looks like Jarno coming close, and let's talk a little bit less about the time. It's all about the laps now. We will be able to go all the way. 4 laps remaining, and Jarno Kosh leads now by a total of 11 seconds. That advantage is built all throughout this race. Second by second, moment by moment, lap after lap, and Jarno now going to lead by a wide margin. Several turns ahead of his competitors, and this race has gone rather quiet as a result, hoping just to come to the end here without error. Looks like the Altona Auto Sport drivers both going to be able to make their way by rather quickly against Alexander Bonney, and so they'll stay in tow. Team Van de Velde trying to get back up to his teammate Julian Altona. Julian not going to make it any easier. So now, Van de Velde going to be 7th, Julian Altona in 6th, Patrick Zovazzi position number 5. Lemmy Mishk, of all drivers who went down to pit road, is currently the leader, and the net leader indeed if strategy does pull through. But Jarno Kosh has still not decided to go in, and that remains the biggest question of all. Now going to be making it through perhaps one final time before hitting pit road. No signal given just yet. Out of Portimão into Galp once more. Will Jarno Kosh decide to go for fuel to finish the race off? Answer's no once again. 3 laps to go. It looks like Couch committed to staying on the track, and into the Primera he'll go at a speed of 182 miles an hour before backing down and pulling it back to cornering speed. And perhaps the one limitation of these Indy cars you're seeing here, these Dallara IR18 machines, not the best at cornering. They're rather quick all throughout, but their straightaway speed is perhaps better than any other car in all of motorsport. We've seen them at straightaways such as those at Indianapolis reaching 230 miles an hour, and even this road course package, they hit 190. Bonnie once again going to go wide, and it looks like quickly making it through. No trouble there as Jarno Kosh gets through the Tora VIP, and Alexander Bonnie stays wide and out of the way with 3 laps to go. You can see it is an open track right now, and Jarno, he's got the ability just to deal with it here and settle in smoothly. Has been able to accustom himself to the cockpit, get acclimated with all the weather and how this track works. However, it looks like a little bit slower there through that sector, and now maybe feathering the throttle perhaps a little bit more, getting down to first gear and being a little bit more patient here. In 1 minute and 30-second lap, last time by for Jarno. 3 laps to go here, and if it's any indicator of what's going on, I think this lap will be the determining factor. Does he go down to pit road here for a splash and go to finish the job, or will this be a no-stop race? It looks like it's going to be a splash and go, so Jarno is going to make it in. We saw him going considerably slower on that lap, and it looks like building up a 21-second gap on entry. And he's going to be good to go here against the field. Keep in mind, a pit stop takes about 30 seconds, so he's anticipating at least one other driver to join him here if there's any chance at locking up the race win without having to fight for it all. And a call from Fyodor Dovzhenko at the line here. Looks like he'll stay out and try to stretch this one with 2 laps to go. Dovzhenko remains on the circuit. Jarno will lose the lead. And Couch now going to get back on the way, but several seconds behind. Dovzhenko takes it through the Primera and does so rather quickly. Now 5 seconds to lead for Dovzhenko. What will Dovzhenko do? Jarno Kosh getting back up to race pace, warming up the tire, getting himself settled in. Now going to be in a battle with pole sitter Lemmy Mishk, but it looks like getting by Lemmy through the Primera and getting back in formation. Lemmy going to be now net third. Fyodor Dovzhenko leading the way. Going to make it now just beyond the Samsung corner. Got through Craig Jones and into Portimão once again. Now, one more lap. The Sagres and the Gump, the final 2 obstacles on this lap, and then a 2.89 mile circuit where Dovzhenko will see victory in just a lap's time. The question becomes, can he handle it and keep on going? Jarno ran a 1:35 that time by, and still going to find himself position number 2. At the stripe here, Dovzhenko with the choice. And it looks like coming across the line here, 1 lap to go for Fyodor. Staying out. White flag gonna fly, and the only driver to not go down to pit road leads the way. Dovzhenko with the lead. 1 lap remaining. Battle's gonna go on here at the back of the field, or the back of the front straightaway anyway, into the Primera. Lemmy Mish gonna stay with Jarno Kosh. And it looks like Jarno now gonna find himself still up ahead of the battle by about a half a second. All eyes going to be on Fyodor Dovzhenko here. The gap is slowly but surely dissipating, and you can't imagine as he goes into the Tora VIP that he's pushing at 100% right now. He's gone 19 laps without going down a pit road, and since each lap is give or take 3 miles, this will come out to, in total, 57 miles ran on this one fuel stint. And it's surprising that Dovzhenko's been able to make it happen. It looks like now, with the final lap in mind, Fyodor going to have to nurse that car home. Gap is down to about 3.2 seconds, and you can see Jarno still going to be pushing all out, getting away from Lemmy, and now trying to move for the race lead, but Dovzhenko still has the advantage. Final sector just ahead of us at a speed of 132 miles an hour. Dovzhenko going to make it through Portimão, then make his way to the final 2 corners. It's going to be Sagres. He's there. Now going to have to roll down the sweeping Gulp corner to get to the checkered flag. I think Dovchenko's out of fuel. He's going to be now slowly but surely feathering it through. Gets through the first portion of the Gulp and gets through the second. Coming down to the line, the only driver not to go down a pit road today gets the win. Fyodor Dovchenko wins the first ever VOR sprint race and gets the checkered flag at the Portimão Grand Prix. Risks it all for strategy, and the checkered flag is his. Drivers crossing the checkered flag as we speak, and everyone has made it home after an exciting 19-lap feature. He was disqualified. Your race winner is Jarno Kalsch. Fyodor takes the checkered flag. After further review, your race winner is Jarno Kalsch. That is the call. It looks like the 96 disqualified. Official scoring will reflect that in just a minute, and Jarno will get the win at the end of day. Can you believe it? Wow. And waiting for iRacing to update the scoring, but we're seeing that Dovchenko has been officially disqualified by the server admins. And with that being said, the race will conclude with a penalty determining the victor. Dovchenko overall came out on top. However, according to our server admins, he's been disqualified. iRacing has not reflected the change. Here are your unofficial standings after this race. Race results show Dovchenko the winner. That's not the case. Fyodor has been officially disqualified. We have gotten confirmation. Race winner tonight, Jarno Kalsch, getting the checkered flag here in Portimão, with Lemmy Mishk in second and Patrick Zovazzi then in third. Jan Korbs is going to be in fourth, and it'll be Julian Altena rounding out the top five. Then from there, it's going to be Tien van de Velde in sixth, Alexander Bonney going to be in seventh, and Robert Sadler going to be eighth. Then Dave Stedman going to be ninth, and to conclude the field, Yaroslav Donskoy, 10th and last. So with that being said, Jarno Kalsch gets the race win. He was dominant early, 17 laps led on the day. However, didn't take the checkered flag first, still awarded the race victory at the end of the day here. What a victory it was. And Kalsch, he was able to hold off Lemmy Mishk there in the heat of the moment. That could have been the race win slipping away, and our pole sitter could have gotten it back. However, Jarno does what's necessary to get the checkered flag tonight, and so winning here in Portimão. Kalsch does not appear to be available for comments, so we might be able to start with another driver. We'll ask one more time to hear from Jarno, and if not, we'll get on to our next competitors. Okay, we talked to number 75, should be coming in the waiting room shortly, and we'll hear from your race winner after a fierce 19-lap sprint tonight. All 30 minutes going to be used, and used well, by the competitors here in the VOR Sprint Series. Jarno Kalsch winning over Lemmy Mishk, and then Patrick Zovazzi. Looks like Jarno going to be standing by with us right now, collecting the checkered flag tonight. And after further review regarding the finish for tonight's event, Jarno, you dominated this race from the first corner on. And while you didn't take the checkered flag there first, it looks like scoring has determined you will win the first ever Sprint Series race here in Portimão. Talk about an incredible drive. Of course, you went down a pit road and were still within 3 seconds of getting the win regardless.
Yeah, thank you. I was debating how I didn't cross the finish line first, but yeah, you got disqualified, and yeah, it was a pretty hard race actually. The Reds, they dropped pretty hard. They were way worse than I expected at the start of the race, but I think I managed it quite well, and yeah, I was able to hold off my two competitors through a mistake from them, I'd say, but I didn't make any, so yeah, I think that's what got me the win today.
It was all about avoiding those big mistakes today, and of course the first lap troubles or second lap troubles, you were up at the front of the field to begin with. So you avoided those to start, and then we talk about the red tires. We were not allowed to see drivers on primaries tonight, it's different, and you guys had to run with the same tires all throughout the day here. So what was it like in such burning heat, having to figure things out in real time?
Yeah, it was fine, I guess. They just dropped off worse than I expected, but yeah, rear tires were hard to manage at the end. Like the last 5-6 laps, I had a lot of wheel spin, which made it very difficult. But until then, it was okay.
All things considered, everything figured out there, and how about that battle you and Lemmy had for the final portion of the race? Were you guys aware that could have been the battle for the win?
Yeah, I was aware. I didn't expect to come out so close to him. So yeah, that was an unexpected battle for me in turn 3 there, but after he made that mistake, it was over as fast as I got into that battle, and I just had to manage it from there. Yeah, it's kind of a shame he made that mistake. I think it could have been a very interesting battle in the last lap.
And all things considered, able to avoid those mistakes, which proved so crucial tonight, heading down to pit road and making everything work. Jarno, first ever winner in this series. And before we head down to Monza, what do you think it's going to take to perhaps go back-to-back and prove you've got what it takes to perhaps win the championship from there?
I don't know really. It's yeah, it's actually the first time I try to build a setup on my own, so maybe I can improve on that. Probably there's lots of improvements to be made. Apart from that, not that much that I can do different, I think.
And it looks like time to, of course, go back to the drawing board for a different track, but a fantastic season opener and a first-time race winner here in the Sprint Series. Jarno, if you have any final shout-outs you'd like to give or sponsors you'd like to thank, the floor is yours.
I do not. I'm looking forward to the free races that are coming and looking forward to some more great battles.
And there we have it, Jarno collecting the checkered flag with 17 laps led here in the Portimão Grand Prix. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Now, Couch on the way. We'll move on to second place finisher tonight. After final timing and scoring occurred, your pole sitter comes home second tonight, and the 23 team pulling through Lemmy. Overall, solid race, almost there for the race win at the end of it, with all the pit strategy coming through, but just a little too late at the tail end there, and just one mistake maybe making all the difference. How do you feel after this one?
Yeah, first of all, good race to the other guys on the podium, and especially Jarno to the win. Great job. Yeah, it was like heartbreaking moment, but I guess like I had 2 chances to stay at the front, and I didn't make it. So yeah, it's his win. He deserves it, and yeah, it was a fun race. To be honest, it was my first road race with the INDYCAR, and I really enjoyed it.
And a first ever race in this league, and it looks like you had the speed from the start, getting that qualifying time up in the front row, and you stayed there ever since. What was it like, though, of course, the qualifying being different from the race and figuring things out in those 19 laps?
Yeah, in qualifying it just about one time, but when you go into the race, you don't know how much the tire drop-off is, and especially when you don't have a next tire set, so you just want to look that you keep these tires on live, and I think I did pretty good, but I have to improve that things because I had less grip in the penultimate lap. As we saw, I go just straight and burning my front tires. So yeah, I have to keep up the things, but not a bad first round.
And a great way to, of course, start the season there. And this is going to carry on for the rest of the schedule. We've got ourselves Some interesting tire rules, of course, alternate tires, and tonight it was warm on the track. And of course, we're expecting maybe the same for Monza. What's it going to take to manage those tires successfully now, knowing how it feels after 30 minutes?
Oh, it was a bit scary because you don't know if the car just goes straight in the next corner because you didn't have that much grip that you have earlier that stint. And yeah, I just need to practice that, and we will see how the season goes on.
And we'll see what happens next. But of course, opening the championship with a second place finish, Lemmy. If you have any final shout outs you'd like to give or sponsors you'd like to thank, we'd love to hear it.
Thanks to all the viewers, and thanks for broadcasting the race.
Well, that being said, second place on the day, Lemmy. Once again, we thank you for your time.
Bye.
And now our final third place finisher, bottom step of the podium, a familiar face in this series, and once again fighting for a road course win. Completely different strategy compared to those around you, Patrick, and tonight still pulling through with that top 3 finish. How's it feeling with the bottom step of the podium achieved tonight in Portimão?
Thanks, David. It is really, really annoying because I knew I had the pace. Like I've charged through after what happened on lap 1. I was behind Jarno pretty closely, but I decided to undercut, and yeah, I overfueled basically everyone, so that cost me a lot of time, and then I basically couldn't make that back up. So yeah, nevertheless, it was a really good race. I really enjoyed it, but it was so annoying that I messed up all the work I did, to be honest.
And that strategy call, of course, make or break perhaps for your night here and trying to go down a pit road much earlier. Can you walk us through how it was, of course, being out there on a much different strategy compared to everyone else and decide to go different?
I basically, the reason why I went into the pits is that I wanted to undercut on Jarno, and I pitted a lap earlier than I should have. I mean, supposed to, and I went into clean air, and then the tires didn't really work as much as it should have, like compared to the first stint. And yeah, I don't know, like it happens. So I need to figure how the strategy is out for the next race.
Strategy going to be so important for what's left on the schedule. Only 3 races left, and up next on the table it's going to be Imola rather than Monza, and then Silverstone. So all international circuits, and going to another track. Of course, we're going across the world here. It seems like the weather really playing a big factor in that tire wear. So what's it going to take to try to combat that? That still remains the big question.
Probably tire saving. Like we had really high temps, and this track has really high tire decks. So yeah, we actually talked with Julian about it, that this is going to be probably a tire saving race, and it was actually at the end. So, but for the other tracks, I think it's gonna be less of a factor that we have to save tires. For Spa, I'm not really sure, but it might be for Silverstone. But compared to these two, that won't be as big of a issue.
We're going to see what's up next on the table. Tire saving and fuel strategy tonight, the big keys to success. And Patrick, coming home with a 3rd place finish here. If you have any final shout outs you'd like to give, make sure to let us know.
Thanks everyone, as always. TWR, as always, thank you so much. And sadly I will be missing Imola, but I'm really sad about it. So hopefully I will be here for Spa.
And we're looking forward to what's next. Of course, Patrick, when you return, great way to start the season. 3rd place here tonight in Portimão. We thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks David. Thank you.
So on the way, your podium sitters, Patrick Zovazzi in third, Lemmy Mishk in second, and Jarno Kalsch, after final admin decision, is your race winner tonight here in the Portimão Grand Prix. Great way to start the season, fantastic driving, all things considered, and every driver made it work out from top to bottom in an intense race battle. The first of 4 races on the schedule, and we'd love to have you at our next one, which will be at Imola. In the updated schedule here, the championship battle going to be moving to Imola, then Spa-Francorchamps, and then Silverstone for the final Grand Prix. All these sprint races are going to be quick, but you won't want to miss them, and we hope you stick with us here on the VOR Racing Network. More coverage of all IndyCar content. I've been your host, David Kreutz, commentating and producing, and if you enjoyed this one, make sure to leave a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel, and tune in next Thursday afternoon for another race here when we head back to Imola for another go-around in Italy. Thank you all for watching tonight's coverage of the Portimão Grand Prix, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's coverage indeed. Thank you all for stopping by. We hope you have a great night.